Hello, welcome back to another little repair video here. This is my 2010 Taurus show. Big car. I'm just doing a little repair here most of you would be able to do in your garage at home. So, and I'll show you what it is. Otherwise, like this, the body of this car is in pretty good shape. There's really no issues or damage. It's pretty nice, clean. But it does have a chip here that's gone and turned into a small, I would say about a dime size rust spot. It's hard to tell here, but you can see it extends out to about here and all the way around. So probably a spot about the size of the bottom of my thumb. And I'm going to show you how with basic tools to fix that and make it look decent with no compressor in a regular garage or even outdoors if you really had to, and make it look okay again, and a repair that hopefully will last a couple of years. I've done a lot of little spot repairs like this, and I've gotten pretty good at the techniques, so I'll show you how I do it. This wouldn't be the same way a body shop would do it, obviously, because a body shop would have a lot more or a lot better tools, techniques, skills, whatever. As you all know, I'm just a handyman kind of guy, so yeah, we'll go ahead and start fixing this so it doesn't get any worse, because as of right now it's like an active crack and water and junk is getting in there. So I've washed and dried the area. You can see it pretty good now, what's going on there. If you saw a reflection in it, you'd see, you can kind of see it's bad. I'm just going to use a cheap random orbit sander from a like Chinese style tool supply store. And it basically just spins and pivots, and I'm going to try to stay in this area here, only going up as high as I can, or have to. But I'm okay with staying flat like this. I don't want to just gouge it in. And I'm just going to try to feather it out and keep the sanding area right there. Okay, so I've sanded it all flat and it feels pretty nice. There's a lot of layers. So there's definitely, like, you can feel some steps. So it's certainly going to need some finishing work. And you can see that little tiny spot there is just a little tiny spot of rust that without gouging deep into the metal, I'm not going to be able to get rid of it. So I'm going to use a little bit of this rust converter on a rag. It's a liquid. Just put a little bit on a rag, and I'm just going to dab it in the middle there, just to make sure that where the paint was compromised and we had some water there, that's going to be fixed. Now, one thing I should note about this repair that I didn't already is that this was caused by a stone chip, a flaw in the paint. It's not coming from the inside out. Now, if you've got rust bubbles and stuff coming from the inside out, you could repair them with a similar like technique, but you're not going to have the longevity, because basically the panel itself is rotten. This isn't that. This is paint chip or defect that somebody didn't fix. So, you know, I guess also this is a good example of why you should buy a touch-up pen and touch up stone chips a couple times a year when you give your car a good wash. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this rust converter on there now. Mix up some 2-part blending putty. I use this stuff here. Anyway, for this job, there's a lot of different brands. It really doesn't matter. You just want it to be a finishing putty. And then use some kind of a spreader. I just have one left over here. And without getting it in the area that was sanded, just gently, without getting in the area that wasn't sanded, just put it in the actual hole. Sorry about the bad camera work here. I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing and not the camera work. This is kind of difficult because this stuff is getting a little bit crusty in its old age. I kind of cheated off camera and pushed this in a little firmer. And basically the point of this is to now make the center of this repair even with the original paint. So, and then we're gonna very, very gently sand it with a block when it's dry. So I folded my paper here. This is a pretty small spot, so I'm not even gonna use a block because I wanna be careful. So I folded my paper into 4 pieces. It's 120 grit. I'm just gonna gently crisscross sand this until it's just about flat, and then I'll go with a lighter paper than a 220. Now the trick is when you're sanding this, you wanna hold this totally flat. Like I said, this is a small area, so I'm not worried about blocking it. But a block behind your paper can really help you keep it flat. And you just, now you see I'm starting to blow through here in this one spot, so I'm gonna stop right there because now we're nice and level. Now I've papered the car off a little bit and cut and ripped out a small hole here, just so we don't get everything all messy. And you wanna go over this, try not to get too much of your paint, but you're gonna be sanding that off anyway if you do. And just try giving a really little spray. Very light coats, and do, I'm gonna do probably 4 or 5. And this is a 1K high build primer filler. Okay, so I just took the paper off and did a little cleanup of any dust or anything on here for now. And basically, you're gonna notice if you look closely, you probably can't tell. Video is not going to be high enough quality, but the texture look in the middle here is different, where it didn't hit where the primer hit the filler and not the metal. And also I concentrated on spraying it a little heavier here. This is about 5 light coats, but the beauty is there's no ridge because I didn't put a hard tape line on anything, except for here to protect this. So basically, like all up here, I could feel just a little bit of fuzz around the repair. Probably actually all the way up to about here, just a little bit of fuzz. You can see the primer spotted a bit up in there. That's okay though, because what we're gonna do next is we're gonna wet sand this down first around here with a really light sandpaper, and to kind of blend this in and erase some of the extra that I don't need. I pretty much want to erase anything that's above this body line right now, just so I don't have to go too much into here with color, and erase a little bit here and here. But it's much easier than trying to tape it off and then having a hard tape line. So the point of the 1K high build primer is to give it some build. So where we have these edges, you can see a little bit here. Now they're gonna have a nice thick coat of primer over all of it, and it'll help make up for the paint we've sanded away and any imperfections in the filler we used. So next, a little bit of sanding. So I'm actually gonna start sanding the heavy spot here, only about there, with some 400. Preferably you use a little sponge-like sanding block. I don't have one, so I'm not gonna do it. And then I'm just gonna keep it as flat as possible until it's almost ready to blow through in the center here. Okay, so we're starting to come through at the edges here, and it's nice and flat. If it wasn't, you'd want to repeat the priming stage. Now I'm going to take a lighter paper, go over all of it again, and up into here. I'm going to use a 1500 grit, and that's going to clean it right up. Now once dry, I'm going to take the good old gray Scotch-Brite. I'm going to scuff it up about this big. Gray Scotch-Brite. Now we're going to take a spray can of color match paint that your auto body supply store can make for you. This is base coat only, so make sure you buy a base coat, not the clear. This is just the base, and you want to shake it really well. It's a good idea to bring the vehicle or a part of the vehicle down when you go to get this made, because they'll actually mix it for you. And you definitely need to do that, because sometimes there's a variance in color, and you need this to match as close as possible, even though we're doing some blending. So I'm going to shake this up really well, use a tack rag to clean this, and I'm going to try my best from, about a foot or so away to just dust over the primer area. So with the first coat, you can see I put the majority of them out here, and just kind of lightly, whatever rolls over, And I'm gonna let that flash off now. Okay, so the second coat, I focused mainly on this area here to a medium wet coat, but still fairly light. You gotta really watch these metallics because they'll model up easily on you if you spray them too heavy. And then I just dusted the outside. Now the third coat, I'm gonna do the same thing. Focus a little more on here and then come just out, just past where I've already focused. Very, very light though. So I end up with a blend, but I have to stay within this area in which I did the gray Scotch-Brite on. I'm allowing about 8 to 10 minutes between coats. Now I've just sprayed my last coat of base, and you can see the repair was like here, and I've come out about that far, and it's feathered out really well, but still, again, you can see where it's lighter here. That's the Scotch-Brite area, so it's still within the Scotch-Brite area. Now, as a final coat, I'm gonna come to a little bit past where I did and just barely dust it on. Dust over it really fast, a little further back, and do that. Go over it about 3 times, just dusting it on, and that will help even everything out. Make sure at this point you don't have any dark or light spots. You know, and that would be caused by going too close or too heavy with the metallic paint. So I hope you could see this, that the area that I've done here is darker. Then the lighter spot is the gray Scotch-Brite, and then the original paint, original clear that's been untouched. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just let this dry up for a little bit. About half an hour is way more than enough. 40 minutes, more than enough. And then I'm gonna come in with 1500 grit and just clean up about an inch past all of that with 1500 grit, maybe 2 inches, just lightly, to get any overspray off of everything. Now there's no overspray down here because this I taped off, but you know, if I feel up here, it feels a little fuzzy past the gray, because when I was back here far, moving it, rolling it, I would have got a little on that. So we're gonna go just past that a couple inches with 1500 grit and just sand it until it kind of loses its shine. I'm not gonna go crazy on it because I don't want to take too much of the original clear off, but just a little bit on the top and to kind of blend it in. Now a quick word on the clear coat. This is a rapid cut-in spot clear coat, and it's a 2K. It's a 2-part. You pop this cap, this red part of the cap off, and you push it into the bottom, and then it activates it, and it'll be good for 24 hours. So you are, as long as you don't wait, you can sand it and touch it up the next day when we're gonna go polish it. So now it's time to clear it. Read the instructions on the can, shake it the right way after you activate it. And this one says shake for 2 minutes, and then it's 10 inches away. So I'll give you very basic instructions. I've sprayed my first coat of clear all up in this area. So you can see it's kind of changed color a bit, and now I'm gonna wait for that clear to dry. About another 8 minutes. Do a second and then a third coat, only out to the edge where I've Scotch-Brited. And then I will let it sit for about 10 minutes. Once you get 3 coats of clear on, just up to the edge, kind of fading it out a little bit to the edge of where your Scotch-Brite is done, you could still see a little bit of a color difference here. That's normal though. We will let that dry now for about 20 minutes. So here's where we're at after the clears had time to dry. You can see it's shiny, 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 and all fairly dark where the clear is. And around it, it's lighter, and then it slowly gets back dark again. So there's kind of like a fuzz here. And this is where the clear is applied very light. Now, yeah, that's a good angle there too. I hope this is picking it up. Right around here is like fuzzy and not shiny, and then up here it starts getting shiny again, and the darker again. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use this fade out spray. That's what this stuff's called. You can get this in a variety of brands. Now this stuff comes out fast and it's like pure liquid. So we're gonna spray that along the haze line. So here and here down to here. Now we're going to tape this off really good, and the wheel again, so I don't get any of that fade out spray where I don't want it. And what that's going to do is that's going to melt the new clear into the old clear and get rid of that haze. There'll still be a little bit of haze, but we'll take care of that tomorrow. So we're going to spray that really lightly, about, I don't know if we're going to be able to see this, about that far away. So a little over a foot away, and that'll give it a really nice few inch pattern, and I'm going to move it really quick. All right, so wet sanding. Doing the entire panel to blend it out, and then making sure that the clear coat is smooth when it goes from like an area where I didn't spray over to an area that I did. It's a good idea when you're wet sanding too, if you're going near anything like this, to tape it off. Same with polishing. Again, over here, I'm going to put a little tape over that when I polish, but this is actually a plasti dip on these taillights, so I'm not sure how paint or tape will work with them. But when you're wet sanding, keep the panel wet. Usually using a block's a good idea. Keep it very wet. I'm using my hand as flat as I can to keep it flat. And you basically just sand it out nice and gentle, lots of water. The spray bottle works well. I've got a pretty small area here, so I'm just roughing it. A few things to note too while you're wet sanding. First of all, the grit I'm using here is 1500. Sorry, that must be awful. The camera's moving, but I'm just trying to show you my way of doing it, which really isn't correct, but you know, nothing about this job that I'm doing is really necessarily correct. Well, I guess a few things are, but I'm using 1500 grit sandpaper. First of all, it's good to have it in on a foam style, like a hard, dense foam style block when you're sanding is a good idea. Like not too hard, you want some flexibility, but not much. And you really want to watch that you don't sand in areas like this. Maybe swipe over them once or something, but any spots that are would be considered high spots, because what happens when the vehicles are originally painted or whatever, when they're painted, any spots like this or like this that would be high spots, the paint sort of flows off of them more onto the flat spots. So the paint here is thinner than it would be, like, you know, in an area like this. So I'm just being careful not to do that. So I'm sanding this out with 1500 grit, and then I'm going to do the entire panel again with 2000 grit. And now I'm just sanding it out until the new area I sprayed. You can't see really anything right now with this, but basically till the new area that I sprayed doesn't have any small little dots, and it's like smooth, or for the most part smooth. You could tell a lot in the feel of the sandpaper. That's one of the hardest things with spraying a clear coat out of a spray can, is keeping it wet where it looks shiny but not getting a drip. And if you spray it too dry, you're not going to get the right finish. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I've cleaned it off now, and if you can see all around the edges there, we're starting to get that dull finish. I sanded it down pretty good. I didn't get rid of 100% of the orange peel. I'm going to leave just a little bit. Got my polisher set up here. It's variable speed. This is just like a Harbor Freight Tools, or, you know, a cheap one with a 3M pad on it. You want to use a good pad. This is the 3M. Which one is this here? 3M Perfected Foam Pad. It's the white one or the beige one. For a silver car like this, that should be all you need with the 3M Perfected rubbing compound. This stuff's pretty expensive. So, you know, like if you had to go out and buy every single one of these tools to do this, you'd probably damn near be at what a body shop would charge. But this is the basic kind of stuff I keep around for detailing. So, you know, definitely price it out, and depending on how many spots in your car need to be fixed, right? Or your vehicle, because obviously the more spots, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish this out now. And I'll try to show you a little bit of the technique that I use to polish it. I'm going to stay away from this tail light. I'm worried about the plasti dip, so I'm just going to, even though I did sand over here lightly with the 2000, I'm just going to hand polish all that. So we'll show you a bit of technique. Polishing is something you probably want to practice on an old beater or something first. You know, that's the reason I went to 2000 grit on this clear coat, is it'll require a little less polishing effort to bring the shine right up. Okay, so the panel's still a little bit wet. That should be okay. Put about this much polishing compound on there. I'm going to start by just smearing it around just a little bit like that, and go nice and slow to start, just to get everything all worked in. Same thing on polishing, you want to stay off the high spots, or you'll easily burn through. Just one quick rub over is all you need on those. It's bright out here. I just gave it a bit of a wash. I tried to dry it with on the areas I wanted to show you with a drying towel, but you get the idea. Really, it looks awesome. Yeah, here's one more quick look. Just in another light. So no more chip, no more problems. No waviness or wobblies, nothing weird. Actually turned out really good. Thanks for watching.